June, July of last year, the company that I was working for was taken over, and they had 2 plants, and one of them got to close, so they decided the plant that I was at had got to close. I took it as an opportunity. This was something I've been wanting to do for a long time.
I thought it'd be really challenging for me, particularly in a school. I thought it would help boost my confidence to be working with so many people in such a big environment, because I'm so used to working in smaller places.
While I was on the career break, I started working at primary school, helping out. And at that primary school, the headmistress advised me to go towards doing an MVQ for a teaching assistant course, so that's what I did.
Because I wasn't really aware of some of the different needs that the pupils had, so then I had to learn different ways of handling and helping the pupils. But now I've sort of fitted in, and it's becoming a bit easier now.
There are no specific educational requirements to become a teaching assistant. At the heart of the job is a commitment to work with and support students.
We have students with specific learning difficulties. We have students who have a disability, students who have a visual and hearing impairment, students with emotional behavioural difficulties. And so there's a wide range of individual needs that we need to meet.
Today, a training session has been organised to help the TAs improve their literacy skills.
What we're going to be doing now then is looking at a piece of pupil's work, the handout that you've got in front of you, handout 1.4. Pupil Scott, and his top challenge was to build stronger links between ideas, and his particular quest, the particular focus, was using conjunctions to join ideas within sentences. All right. What I've done today is I've come in for a half-day session to work with teaching assistants from Earls School and Windsor School to look at the writing challenge, which is one of the intervention strategies suggested by the Key Stage 3 strategy, suggested to be used with Year 7 and 8 pupils who are experiencing difficulty in their writing across the curriculum. I'm going to give you 5 minutes then, in pairs, to look at this piece of writing and see whether or not you could come up with some other suggestions. We'll get some feedback, but in that feedback, what I'm particularly interested in also is how it felt to be reviewing and whether or not there are any implications for you in your work with pupils. I think teachers recognise that teaching assistants are a valuable part of their classroom repertoire, are there to support individual pupils or groups of pupils, but that equally their role is changing slightly with a lot of the intervention strategies that have been introduced. All right, is there anything in particular then that you would draw out from this piece of writing? Anything at all that you noticed or you would suggest to Scott?
I've noticed that when spelling us, he uses an E on the end, so it spells use, and it's a repeated problem, so I'd work with him on that.
Right, OK. Now that's a valid point, isn't it? That there's something there, misuse of a word, that he's done actually throughout the writing.
Local education authorities and schools have a responsibility to develop and train their TAs, and at the Earls High School they provide a wide range of training opportunities.
Thankfully the school took me on without me being trained, but there is in-service training that goes on there. We have regular inset days, and there are courses available at the local Educational Development Centre, which if we feel that we want to go on them, then we can go. The finance is available to send us on those courses. Because I'm new in the job, it was a lot of pressure, and I had a word with Mrs Bartlett and said that I'd like to get 12 months under my belt and feel more confident, and then I'll go with the foundation degree. I enjoy learning, and my previous job was continual professional development, so it's not something that's new. What's the first bit say?
Teaching assistants are able to take MVQ level 2, MVQ level 3 as part of their career development. And at the Earls we've just introduced the foundation degree course. I actually am an associate tutor on that course, and it's held at a local college. That's a 2.5-year degree course, and that would then, if the teaching assistant wanted it, enable them to go along the teaching route.
Have you done 2 for each one? Yeah. You're going to join them together then?
When I came into the job, we were given training on the job. It was very hands-on. And then as you get to know your students, you can judge for yourself what you need to learn and what training courses you need to go on. And then you can ask and say, I need to be sent on this. Because it really is about learning what's happening and learning what's happening with the student, getting to know the student, and then deciding for yourself where you want to go with that.
Each department is given a folder which includes all the information on individual students. And departments are encouraged to distribute that amongst their staff so that all staff know which students have individual education plans, which students in their groups are identified as gifted and talented, and where in particular they need to work closely with the teaching assistant to provide support for the student.
Originally I was thinking about doing teaching, but I didn't want to go straight into teaching because I wasn't 100% sure that's what I wanted to do. So I thought I'd do teaching assistant role and get a feel for what the job was like. I've been on lifting and handling course, which is looking at the way people with special needs and disabilities are actually moved around from chairs, things like that. So, and just different apparatus that are available to us to use. So. Part of the training involved demonstrations on how to use the wheelchairs, techniques like applying brakes, just simple things like that. It's obvious, but you have to remember these things. Also getting students out of chairs and different apparatuses to move from a chair, like a slidey board, to the bed.
Welcome to everybody to our Learning Support meeting. When a teaching assistant has been out on a course, they often come back and they're invited at a Learning Support team meeting to cascade down the information and resources that they've acquired on that course. So it is working together to develop that training.
But we could use blue food colours so they could see it clearly. Last night I went to a visually impaired training meeting where we were given different types of glasses that had been manipulated to make you look through them and see as a visually impaired student, and there were varying degrees of it, and then you had to do experiments. If you have the work like that and you're just showing them, there's a lot of clutter in the background. You've got books, you've got pencils, all sorts of stuff on the table. If you use a clear piece of card, it's really simple, but it makes it that much easier. Yeah. And it was brilliant because you really could put yourself in their shoes. And I think that's one excellent piece of training for me to work with my girl who's visually impaired.
Alle nach vorne schauen, bitte. Alle nach vorne schauen. Stifte hinlegen, alle nach vorne schauen.
The learning process was a sudden shock, and the amount that I got to learn so quickly. But having said that, it was still an incentive, you know. I've really enjoyed doing it. I do some of the assignments with the pupils as well. Fit some of the assignments in. So yeah, I get satisfaction out of doing that. They see me doing it, and Sir's doing it, Sir's doing it. So I feel that it helps to encourage them as well. And it gives me a better understanding of the work that they're going to be covering.
Nein, ich gehe nicht. Nein, ich gehe nicht.
At the Earls we try to offer inset sessions on the whole area of learning to learn, because it's not what we teach children, but it's how they learn. So we spend quite a lot of time developing that. And I guess the big thing for the Earls High School recently has been the whole agenda of assessment for learning. And that has enabled us to, if you like, raise the achievement of our students. And the teaching assistants are very involved in that programme. They're always asked to look at the end of a lesson where the student is at and where they need to get to, what their next steps need to be. And by doing that, we are raising the achievement of those students identified with student educational needs.
Before I came here, I got my MVQ3 in childcare and education. From then on, I've learnt on the job. I've been on special needs courses and obviously the Asperger's, autism, disabled, everything like that. They're just continual courses that you go on and get your certificates for. But a lot of it is working on the job and seeing exactly what you can do. And if you get a problem, there's usually somebody in a school like this that's done it, been there, knows what to do next, and somebody can put you in the right direction of finding that person.
When we're starting to really pick apart techniques within English or techniques within the subject or media, it's something where we quite often have to share that level of expertise with the teaching assistant as well, so that they're having to be jack of all trades, and so it's not fair to put them in a position where they haven't got an understanding of what we're looking at. So yeah, essentially the booklets that we create and the resources that we create as a faculty explain those ideas anyway. So the booklet that the students use is the booklet that I use, is the booklet that the teaching assistants use. And so from that point of view, if there's any further explanation that's needed prior to a lesson, that's something we'll consider.
People come in as well. Peter especially used to have speech and development teacher come in to him, and that's great because then you learn from them, and if she thinks that you're doing something that's not right or you could be doing something else, she'll actually give you that information. So the outside agencies are really good. People with hearing difficulties as well, we've got a big connection with them, and they come in and help us if we do need any help.
In the past, I have only actually carried out classroom observations and reported back and discussed the folder of work which they keep. I've actually upped that a little bit this year. This year I'm going to start by having a look at your job description and seeing whether we need to make any amendments or additions to that. The first meeting looks at their current job description. It's important that we update that on an annual basis. And it discusses with them their objectives for the next year. Teachers have to have professional development objectives, and I think it's really important that the teaching assistants are part of that process. It's also a great opportunity for me to actually praise them and let them know how well they're doing, because they all are doing extremely well.
It's just a joint effort. You've got to be there. You've got to give 110%, otherwise it's not worth doing it.
And you do, so thank you very much.
The role of teaching assistants is bound to expand. It's certainly, if you look historically at the Earls High, 5 years ago we had a relatively small number of such assistants. Now we've got a fairly large team, and I've no doubt that team will be even larger just by next year, never mind 5 years' time.